Death Island. Long ago, there was a city with a peculiar law. Every year, a king different from the preceding one would rule, chosen and inaugurated by the city's people on the first day of each year. After completing their term, they were sent to a distant island to spend the rest of their lives, and then a new king would be chosen, and so on. When a king finished their rule in the city, the people dressed them in the finest attire and paraded them on a large elephant, touring the entire city to bid farewell to their subjects. This moment was one of the most challenging, filled with sorrow and pain for the departing king and all the previous ones. Following this ritual, the people would place their former king on a ship, sailing towards the distant island where exiled king spent the remaining years. However, upon the ship's return to the city, they discovered a sunken vessel, and amidst its wreckage, a young man struggling against the waves. They rescued him and asked him to be their king for 1 year. Initially reluctant, the young man eventually agreed, learning of the city's law that dictated he would be transported to the deserted island after a complete year. After 3 days of his rule, the young king asked the prime minister to see the island where the previous kings were sent. Accompanied by soldiers, they witnessed a dense forest covering the island, inhabited by predatory animals roaming freely for a long time. When the king and his soldiers landed on the island, they found the corpses of the former kings strewn on the ground. The king understood the story. Every king sent to the island met their demise at the hands of the predatory animals. The young king returned to his city, gathered 100 strong men, and took them to the island. There, he commanded them to clear the forest, eliminate the predatory animals, and remove the bodies of the previous kings, ridding the island of anything that disrupted its tranquility. The young king regularly visited the island to oversee the progress, and with time, the island transformed. Trees obstructing roadways were cleared, and the remains of kings and animals were properly buried. The island became entirely clean. The king then instructed the workers to plant gardens and raise useful animals like ducks, chickens, and goats across the island. Afterward, he directed them to build a large house and a harbor for ships. Over time, the deserted island turned into a beautiful city, lacking only the presence of its human inhabitants. The young king, wise and frugal, dressed modestly, spent minimally on his life, dedicating his savings to developing the island where he would move after a year. 9 months passed, and the king convened with his ministers, informing them of his intention to leave. However, they reminded him of the city's law, requiring him to spend the remaining 3 months before departure. Complying with the law, the king spent the 3 months, and after completing the year, it was time for him to move to the distant island. The people of the city dressed him in the finest clothes and placed him on the large elephant, bidding him farewell, but the king reacted unlike his predecessors. Rather than letting sorrow mar his face, he laughed and smiled. When asked about it, he quoted a wise saying, "You are born in this world crying while everyone around you is laughing. Live in this world, work as you see fit until death comes to you. Then, you will laugh while everyone around you weeps." The previous kings were preoccupied with the pleasures of power and wealth during their rule, but I was occupied with thinking about the future and planning for what my situation would become. I repaired and rebuilt the island until it became a small paradise where I could peacefully live the rest of my life. This worldly life is nothing but a farm for the hereafter. What we sow here, we will reap.